are bright and shiny in my mind. You got me loving, hating, crazy indecision in my mind.
Welcome to the Fall Podcast, where the focus is on deer hunting, tips, tricks, tactics, and stories from across the Midwest. And now, here is your host, Aaron Blasey.
Welcome to the Fall Podcast. I am your host, Aaron Blasey, and this is episode number 41. And today, Justin and I have Joel Burham from Whitetail Fit on the podcast. And man, I've been looking forward for the last at least week to getting Joel on here because, you know, knowing what he does through the YouTube and social platforms and everything and what he's about with Whitetail Fit is just really cool. So I can't wait to get into this one.
Yeah, it's really cool, like you said, just because of the way fitness has taken a hold in the industry, I think, and, you know, the effect it has on people's not only outlook as far as what they can expect in a hunt, but just their mentality and the way they approach it. It's just one more element that, you know, that's on the table that people, I think, have overlooked in the past that can contribute to not only your success, but you know, like it's part of like your due diligence as far as, you know, doing respect to the animals that you pursue, like whether you're a sheep hunter or a whitetail hunter, an elk hunter, you know, or a cottontail hunter, you know, like there's a certain physical demand, you know, to go out and say you're doing this ethically. It's, I don't know, it seems like a very insignificant part of the equation, but, you know, it's not. It's very significant, and it's got a direct effect on the result, you know, and the success of your hunt.
Yeah, and I always say, too, you know, you're going to get out what you put in. So the more you put in, the more you're going to get out of it, and that goes hand in hand, I think, with the fitness side of things and, you know, just being more prepared and confident in what you can do and, you know, your abilities, and that's just another way to be successful. Yeah. And I just can't wait to get him on the phone and talk about it. But first, I see that you've been doing some coyote hunting, and you got one down.
Yeah, shot the first one today of the season. I never really invested in the gear to do it seriously, and this year I was like, you know, I'm moving to the Midwest and I've got access to a bunch of property, so I said I'm going to spend a little bit of money and just be able to have it as something to do, and you know, it plays over well into our off-season series for Midwest Whitetail. You know, it's a predator, and it has an effect on your deer herd, and I mean, I'm not going to lie, a lot of our guys hunt private ground. I don't think anybody would turn down the opportunity to hunt private ground in Iowa, you know, for a deer. But if you can have a role in the management of that property, taking out coyotes, you know, you're just as inclined to say, hell yeah, I'll go do it.
Right.
And you know, I was afforded the opportunity to hunt this farm I was on tonight. I hunted it the last 3 days, the late muzzleloader here. I did not kill a deer on it, but the fact that my boss said, you know, go ahead and hunt. You know, I stayed back from ATA, but I still had a tag to fill, and that was my priority. So, again, I didn't kill a deer on that farm, but I killed a female coyote tonight, and I just prevented 4 or 5 or 6 more mouths from being born that require feeding, you know. So
exactly. I
didn't know it was a female when I shot it, but I know it was a predator. It was a fawn killer. And, you know, I don't say that with animosity. Like, I'm not out like with a vengeance, you know, to kill as many as I possibly can and make them all suffer. But it's that time of the year. There's nothing else to do, and you're doing some good for your ground. And the deer have been bred, and there's going to be babies on the ground here in another couple of months. So
right,
just do what you can. And I mean, again, it's not anything I have animosity for. It's a cool opportunity. I never really had an investment in it. I bought a new scope. I bought a call and sighted my gun in, and it's just fun to go out there and learn how to do this. I don't have any experience in it.
Yep.
And I don't know, it's just fun. And it's good for the property.
Yeah. And that's, you know, it's been so damn cold here in Michigan. We haven't been able to get out. I mean, it's been -10 to -20 at night, you know, and that's when we like to do it mostly is at night after dark. So
yeah,
it's going to start warming up here in the next couple of days. And I think we're going to be getting out because the coyotes, I mean, I've got fresh tracks every day behind my house. And a lot of people like the coyotes dead around here because they come up in the backyards and get a hold of their dogs or their pets, or not only that, just kids too, and it's another reason to control the population. But that's going to be coming up. So other than that, I haven't really been outside doing much. I'm trying to stay off the farm just because I don't want the pressure on, like we talked about in the coffee call, last week. And, I just try to keep the pressure off and trying to keep the deer stress free right now, and waiting for this weather to warm up a little bit, because I want to get outside, getting some cabin fever for sure. Yeah,
same here, man. Today was the first day it was above 0 in about 4 days, and I think we got blasted here. I mean, I think you might have been even colder than we were, but yeah, we're recording today's Friday, and I think on Wednesday it was like I think it got down like 44 below 0.
Yep.
I mean, it reminded me back in college, like I went to school in Saranac Lake, which is, up in New York, northern New York, right by Lake Placid, but there was plenty of times we were the coldest place in the country, and I saw -60 twice while I was in school there.
Wow.
And seeing -40 here in Iowa, where I was at in New York, is still higher, latitude as far as elevation goes, and now we're flirting with that same kind of weather here in the Midwest. It's like,
that's cold.
This is cold.
That's frigid.
Yeah, but it's over.
Well, cool. Let's transition this over, and let's get Joel on the phone here, and let's start this interview. What do you think?
Yeah, let's get it rolling.
But before we get to that, if any of you guys are in the market for new cables and strings, look no further than America's Best Bowstrings. And if you want more information on them, go to americasbestbowstrings.com and tell them the guys from the Fall Podcast sent you. All right, we are back, and today we have a special guest, like every week. I say it every week, we have a special guest, but you know what? You're not. I mean, you could be special, I guess, Joel.
I don't know what kind of way I'm special, but it's probably not the good kind.
Special guest, I guess, to all of us. But Joel Burham, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, so for everybody out there, that is on social media and might know your Instagram handle, you are the Whitetail Fit guy.
I'm the Whitetail Venison Gains.
There you go.
Kind of a little trademark I've rolled with here for the past several years, and it's been really cool. So
awesome, man. Well, before we get started, can you kind of kick off, like, who you are, where you're from, and what you do for a living?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously my name's Joel Burham. I started a lifestyle brand called Whitetail Fit here it's been about 3 years now. Back in 2016, the summer of 2016 is when I established it. But so I actually do apparel sales too. So I sell just custom t-shirts that I do all the logo designs and stuff on them. And I mentioned earlier Venison Gains. That's one of my trademarks there is #Venison Gains. And it just kind of flows with who I'm about and what I'm into as far as bow hunting, whitetail, and fitness. So fitness plays a huge role in my hunting game, and it all just kind of flows together. And actually how I used to be, like coming out of high school, I was about 128 pounds dripping wet, and I'm about 170 now. So I was able to put on, I just wasn't efficient, and I didn't feel good about where I was at, like physically and stuff. I felt weak all the time, and I just didn't feel like a really efficient hunter. I got tired a lot, just no motivation, that kind of thing. And I found the gym, and I'd always been a bow hunter, but found the gym and had a freezer full, broke little kid coming out of high school, living on his own, and had a freezer full of deer meat. So I just started incorporating that in my diet. And deer meat, I mean, pound for pound, it's got to be one of the highest in protein content of probably, I mean, I know there's a lot of red meats that might outweigh it, but it's up there for sure, along with elk, and I think bison's pretty high too. So, but anyway, so that's kind of a little trademark that I came up with, and it's been a lot of fun. Put it on some t-shirts and hats and stuff, and apparel sales are really, it's just a lot of fun to just mess around and kind of play around with that market, and I really enjoy it as well. So But yeah, so I grew up in, I don't know if you guys know where Lincoln, Nebraska is.
Yes, I do.
So I grew up just south of Lincoln, Nebraska, a little small town called Roca.
Okay.
And we were actually on the outskirts of that. I lived on a little acreage with my parents. I got 3 older brothers. My poor mom, she had to deal with a lot. No sisters, and all living out on an acreage. We were just the, little country boys running around and getting into trouble on the farm. But so yeah, it's kind of a little bit about me, I guess.
So are you telling me that if you are 128 pounds and if you just eat venison, you'll get to 170 pounds? Is that what you're telling me?
Not exactly. Not exactly. You kind of got to incorporate a little bit other things in your diet as well, but definitely consistency in the gym and lifting and just being smart about what you're doing with what you're putting in your body and stuff. I mean, there's a lot that you can do to gain muscle mass and gain weight and stuff like that, but there's a lot of wrong ways to do it too.
Yeah.
And I've just always been super, like, I don't drink much at all. I've never been into smoking or anything like that. I've just been really conscious about like my health pretty much my whole life. But it wasn't until I got out of high school and I'm just like, man, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm like skinny, scrawny, like no girls are checking me out. I'm like, what's happening right now, And I don't know, not that was any kind of priority, but at the same time, you want to feel good about yourself and you want to feel good about, how you perform in the woods and just being also, I was working construction at the time as well. I actually still work at the same construction company as I did then. And being that light and being that small just wasn't, again, it wasn't efficient for being a construction worker either. Like, I mean, throwing around 80-pound bags of, U-mix concrete, good luck when that's like over half your body weight.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I did a little bit of road construction on a natural gas crew, and I mean, I was very similar, in physical shape, I guess, if you want to call it that. But the boss would say, yeah, grab the jackhammer, and open up the street on that paint line, and like a 90-pound jackhammer.
90-pounder, dude. They'll throw you around.
Dude, it was like, it looked like a cartoon, like Roger Rabbit, just getting bounced down the highway on top of a jackhammer. And I was like rattling the teeth out of my skull, man. I was like, man, I'm such a wuss. Like, this is crazy. I couldn't even pick it back up once it broke through the asphalt. I was like,
yep.
What else you got? I can't do that.
Yeah, you bury that bit in the concrete. You're not lifting that thing out unless you got a little bit of something on your arms.
Nope.
So
yeah, so if you have a venison full of, or a freezer full of venison, rather, and if you wear venison gain shirts, I guess the chicks will be all over you, and you'll gain weight, and you'll have muscles all over.
Hey, that sounds like a full package.
It is. I'm 178 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal, so I love it.
That's right. There you go. Heck yeah.
But if I run up the stairs, I'm huffing and puffing for 3 days, so.
Yep. Oh, hey, and that's another thing is like, so I'm here in Nebraska, we're kind of, we it's flat land,
Yep.
And I do go out and do quite a few Western hunts. Recently in the past 2 or 3 years, I've been doing a lot more, but when you go out there to elevation, it is a different game. So I switch up my workout routine and I switch up what I'm doing for lifting and stuff. And it's kind of fun because it's like I've got a system to all of it. Like per hunt, if I know I'm going, so this last year I went to Utah for a high country mule deer hunt with my buddy Eric Chesser, Get Hushin. And so went up there and I knew that it was going to be, higher elevation. My breathing wasn't going to be up to par by any means. So what I ended up doing 2 months out from the hunt, I completely switched up my workout routine, and I was about 170 pounds 2 months out. And I think I dropped down when I got out there. I want to say I was like 155, 158.
Wow.
I just wanted to drop my body weight a little bit and ramp up my cardio. And honestly, it helped a lot. I mean, it was still a struggle. It was still just getting to camp was 4.5 miles. My pack was 80 pounds.
Yep.
That initial climb was like rough, but the rest of the hunt, we were out there for 9 days of actual hunting, and the rest of the hunt was awesome. You know, I felt good physically, and that right there, just like, if you feel good physically, you definitely feel good mentally. And so it's fun. I play with it. I play around with just changing up my diet and changing up my workout routine, trying to drop my body weight. If I know I'm going to be doing a lot of hiking and stuff, I just want to carry less weight, I guess, if I can.
Yep.
But again, there's a right way and a wrong way to do that too. You can kind of deplete yourself. You got to do it right. So
for sure,
it's fun to play around with, for sure.
Yeah. You know, I went on a sheep hunt. Well, it'd been 2014. I went on a sheep hunt, and I was really intimidated, you know, because I wanted to be able to, you know, keep up with everybody. But I've been on grizzly hunts before that, where, you know, in Alaska with the mountainous.
And I'm jealous.
Yeah, and
that's one of the bigs for me. That would be such a sweet hunt.
Yeah, the grizzly hunt was a good hunt.
Was that with Rick Carone, Aaron? Was that your sheep hunt?
Nope, my sheep hunt was with Chad Hall.
Okay. So
we went up to Northwest Territories, and an outfitter called Nahani Butte, and we got flown in to Spike Camp, and you know, we were hunting from camp, and I was pretty worried, you know, going into it, because I honestly I worked out, but I didn't like do weights or anything. It was a lot of like heavy pack, you know, and just hiking and getting some cardio in and everything. But I started to figure out, I've been on enough mountain hunts that the first day or two is really tough for me. And then I get my legs under me. And honestly, I don't really have a problem at all once I get to that point. And it takes, like I said, a day or two. And, you know, a lot for me was the mental side. And, you know, as long as you're mentally tough with it, you know, and you put your mind to it, you might be slow. You might be slow going and, you know, hard to do it sometimes. But I mean, the mental game of it is higher, I think, in a lot of aspects than the physical game. But the physical game does play a big role as well. I'm not saying a 300-pound human can go out there and just start Cam Haynes in it up and down these mountains. But, you know. That's
right. Well, and it's funny you say that. Going back to just what I do for t-shirt design and stuff. Another slogan that I put on a t-shirt is a mental and physical edge go hand in hand.
Oh yeah.
And I really do believe that it's, you know, like I say, if you get up there and you feel like you're in pretty good physical shape, that only helps your mental game.
For sure.
If you go up there and you feel like dog crap and you're already like puking and you're halfway up the trail, it's like, well, good luck for the rest of 10 days, you know?
Yep. And it just gives you confidence.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what, like, it's a lot of fun to play around with that and stuff. Is just I'm kind of the same way when I get on the initial hunt, the first day and into the second day too. Like, it takes me a little bit to get my feet under me as far as altitude goes, like just getting my breathing right. But once I get kind of acclimated to that, then I mean, it's just, you just have such a blast, you know?
For sure. Yeah.
And Aaron, I've been in the same boat, man. Like the way Aaron was talking about how you just you get acclimated, and, you know, I've known Aaron for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years now, but, you know, both of us filming hunts, it's like, I remember you telling me about the Tarh hunt you went on in New Zealand to film.
Yep.
Saying that was the most physically demanding and toughest hunt you've ever been on. And last spring, I was scheduled to go to New Zealand to film a stag hunt there, and I ended up taking a full-time position that brought me to Iowa now. But I didn't go on the hunt. But long story short,
Iowa's a good state to be in, though.
Yeah, it doesn't suck, that's for sure.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It's like I think like one of the most demanding as far as cardiovascular for me and just physically was a spot and stalk mule deer in South Dakota, like on the river breaks, just that constant up and down. And I mean, it wasn't anything high elevation, but like just having to have that stamina. And I mean, it's not a Tarh hunt in New Zealand, but I mean, that's
no. And that's probably a lot like out here in Nebraska, we've got antelope up in the northwestern corner. and there's a huge block of public ground up there called the Ogallala Grasslands. Anyway, when I say huge, I mean like it's big, and you can like put some miles on your feet. And you're not supposed to drive off the 2-track roads, like no 4-wheelers, anything like that. It's all prohibited. So if you want to go into the dead center of a section, like, well, you're going to walk it,
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally get what you mean with it. South Dakota's probably got a lot of the similar terrain like that. But man, it does, like, even though it's not high elevation, just those rolling hills and stuff, and just, it can kick your butt around.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's just constant. Like you're out on a stalk, and you're blowing 9 out of 10. So like you're just start over. You blow it, you start over. You just keep going until it works. And like next thing you know, you're 4, 5, 6 miles from the river, or you got to go 4 or 5 miles from the truck if you're not on the river, like just to get started. And it's like, man, what am I gonna do if I shoot a 200-pound mule deer buck? Like this is gonna be hell.
Yep.
Yep. But it's the good kind of hell, right?
Oh yeah, it is. Unless you have a camera in your hand, then you're no, it's still fun doing that
right.
too.
That's true. I mean, when I was out there, I was the cameraman, and it was like, yeah. Sorry guys, I got my own stuff to carry, but
yeah, that New Zealand hunt I was on, we were in the Wanaka Valley hunting Tarh, and I mean, that was my first experience with a Tarh, and it ended up being the 7th biggest Tarh in the world at the time.
No way. Are you serious?
I swear. Yeah.
Holy cow. Congratulations, man. That's cool.
I get to kill it with a camera, but
I got you. Right on.
I wish I could have killed it.
Oh,
but
man.
we didn't know it at the time. I mean, Tarhs, I don't know if you've ever been to New Zealand on a Tarh hunt, but Tarh, I mean, there's not a lot that differentiate them. I don't know a ton about them, but like to me, a Tarh is a Tarh. Like it's just, they have like really cool and beautiful manes on them, like a lion mane almost. Mm-hmm. But as far as their headgear, it's it's just kind of, I mean, you can see a decent Tarh and a good Tarh. I mean, when you're looking at them and you know what you're looking at, then I mean you can differentiate them. But to me, they were just like, oh, it's just a Tarh. So, but we hiked up this valley, and it was the rut, and it took us a while to get up there, and it was pouring down rain and trying to keep the cameras, dry and everything, and finally get in a position, and we lost sight of the Tarh. Well, I went over there with a couple guys that were shooting custom-made rifles and Huskama optics. So, I mean, they're shooting a baseball cap at 1,200 yards. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, they're getting, like, dialed in. So we find this Tarh, and we get on him and ultimately get him killed. But the thing was he was on the other side of the mountain, so there's a big valley, and we were shooting across the valley, and he falls all the way down in between these two valleys. So we have to hike down like 2 hours to get him. Maybe not 2 hours, but close to it. And honestly, you're not touching the forest floor. Like, it is like, the best way I can describe it for people in the Midwest, it's like, picture the thickest autumn olives you could ever have and lay them on the forest floor, but you're trying to walk on top of them, and it's wet and raining, and it is like straight down. Well, when we finally got down to him, he died in a waterfall in the Wanaka Valley, literally a waterfall, and it was the most beautiful thing ever.
That is insane. I was going to say, I bet that was some good footage.
It was awesome. And then it's like, well, we're here. We gotta hike him back out of here now and go the same way that we came. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And the rain, and I mean, it was like an 8-hour excursion from start to finish, if not more. But it was cool. But when you get to that point, you're there. You're either stuck or you just gut it out, and it's mental tough, and you just do it.
Yeah. And my thing is, like, on that high country mule deer hunt that I did here in Utah last year, there in the basins, there's a lot of just different, it kind of broke up terrain and stuff, but there's a lot of thick, what they call quakies,
Yep.
Just really, really thick. And we would put a stock on, we'd put a glass on a mule deer, and it's like, oh man, he's in his bed, like, let's do this. We got this stock, and we just flat we don't even care about how far he is. Like, he's a speck in the glass, and we're like, we can make it. We can make it. And then
right.
By the time we get over there and get the stock on, we blew a stock out. Like, I don't even know how I'm sure it was 3.5, 4 miles just to get around the top of the basin and drop in on them with the right wind, and ended up blowing the stock out. There's a couple more deer with them that we didn't see, and they picked us out, and they just took off, and I look back at my buddy Wes, and I'm like, dude, we're like a ways away from camp. And like, we weren't even thinking about it, it wasn't like, it was just like, oh, deer, go make the stock,
You get
and
caught
it's
up
like,
in the
dude,
moment.
we got to get back out. And it's like straight up through the Quakies again, stuff's just holding you down like vines,
Yeah, and you'd like to make it back before dark too. I mean, because you never know what
never happens.
Exactly. Yeah, because you never know what could come about,
I know it.
Yeah.
I know
so
it.
and that was another point.
Yeah.
I was in Alaska and on a grizzly hunt and killed I was filming, killed a grizzly, and we had a 4-mile hike back to camp. And by the time we got everything caped out, and it was already dark. So we were in the dark trying to, get back. It took a long time. I mean, and we were, the part of I can't even remember what part of what range we were in, but it almost felt like the sheep hunt I was on, and it was just up and down, and and you're just going by headlamp, and there's wolves out there, there's more grizzlies there. It's like, you never know.
I was gonna say in Grizz country, that's I'd be minding my P's and Q's for sure way more than I do high country mule deer. Even high country mule deer in Utah, like the most you're going to deal with are like bears and black bears and cougars. But I don't know, those have just never bothered me.
Right.
I guess they probably should more than they do, but they never have, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the thing with
but Grizz is just a different species.
Well, and they're giant. I mean, not only are they giant, but the difference in grizzly and black bear, grizzly, they'll catch you and then they'll play with you before they kill you. And then black bears, they come in and they're just going to kill you right away. Like, that's the difference. But that I wouldn't rather pick either one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so grizzlies, they just like to play with you for a little bit.
Oh man,
yeah,
so freaky, man. And that's the funny thing. I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast with Adam Greentree. He was on there, and they were talking about hunting in Grizz country and stuff. And he was hunting solo or whatever, and rolled up on a sow. And anyway, nothing ever came of it. Never got hurt or anything like that. But they were talking about just grizzly bears, and Adam's like, I'm not even going to try an Australian accent right now, but Adam was like,
please do.
He's like, oh man, I'll butcher it. He's like, man, people are all like, oh, what if there's a Boogie Man out there and stuff? It's like, dude, Boogie Man. It's like, what are you talking about? We have real life monsters and they live here. Like, they exist, dude.
Yep.
Like, grizzly bears are here,
Exactly.
Like, what are you talking about, a boogeyman? Why are you worried about something that you can't see? Or I think like a Sasquatch or something he was talking about. Like, you worried about that? Dude, we have grizzlies. They're man-eaters, dude.
Exactly. Man, I've been out in Wyoming on a whitetail hunt early September. The first morning in, I saw my first mountain lion, and the mountain lion went across the trail that we had come in on in the dark in the morning, and I'm like, holy shit. It just broke daylight, and we literally just walked down that trail, and I'm like, oh my God, it just got real.
Freaky.
It is.
Freaky, man. We've got a few mountain lion here in Nebraska, but they're for sure established up in the northwest corner, kind of the same area I was talking about for antelope. But the Pine Ridge region is what they call it. But down in the southeast where I'm at, there's a sighting every once in a while, but nothing like I say, they're established up there,
Yep.
So I don't come across a whole lot of cats here in Nebraska.
Yeah. And, and a lot of people have asked me before in all my trips, like, what's the scariest thing you've encountered? Well, I've been amongst grizzlies and wolves, and I've been charged by a black bear that we actually had to take down because it bluff charged us 3 times, and on the 4th time she came the whole way, and
oh man,
our guide had to kill her with a 30-30, literally at 5 feet. But yeah, that was crazy. But honestly, the most like worried I've ever been was I saw a pack of 8 wolves. I don't know why that was the scariest or the most like on edge I've been, but there was something about the setting we were in and the situation we were in, but the 8 wolves, man, that got me. That made the hair stand up on my back.
Well, wolves are just so smart,
Yeah.
and we know that. You know what I mean? So it's like there's kind of that connection there that's like you gotta respect them because
Exactly.
they're killers, dude.
Yep.
And that's just what they do, So yeah, wolves would be freaky.
That's one animal that I'm anxious to have an encounter with. Like I don't know how I would feel, but going into it, I know like it's not that I'm unafraid of them, but I think I don't know. I just feel like I respect them enough to know like when we make eye contact or when I see one, it's gonna be like, you stay on your side, I'll stay on my side.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. Like, and I
feel like that's how they work too. They're very coherent. They know exactly what's going on.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, and I just feel like they're just as curious about you, unless they decide they want to kill you. But I mean, I think there's like a line, especially with a lot of those type of predators that are smarter than you, that they're the ones in control. Like you just act like a piece of meat that just respects the fact that, I mean, you put the ball in their court. I mean, I know this sounds ridiculous and like I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it's just, if I ever had an encounter with a wolf, I think it would end up being more, intrinsic to me as far as saying this is what happened, as opposed to saying, man, I was shitting my pants and I did everything I could to get out of there. Like I just want that. I want that moment.
Yeah.
I want to
the
know
experience
that,
of it.
Yeah, like to me, it's just so cool. And I mean, a mountain lion, I'm not going to screw with that. Like I'm out.
I just don't like cats. I don't like cats in general.
Well, just think about like, because I've talked to several people about it before, and it's like, oh, they're not going to do anything to you. They're not going to hurt you and stuff. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I agree with that to a point for sure. Like like I say, I've been in a lot of places that do have cats, not necessarily around here in Nebraska, but they're around for sure, and it's like, I've just never been super bothered by it, probably because I don't see them. But it's very, just imagine if one wanted to get a hold of you, imagine a pissed off house cat, how hard that is to get off you. Now imagine that times like 400, dude.
Yeah.
Right. At 100, like at the same body weight as you yourself, 170 pounds. I mean, a big male with the will to live, the instinct to kill anything 4 or 5 times its size, that does it efficiently, and you're not going to know it until you're laying there bleeding out.
Yeah, and it's killing with its bare hands, whatever. It's killing with what it was born with every day.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Well, and cats have 9 lives too, so we only have 1. I mean, you could stab that thing 8 times, and we're still screwed.
We're screwed.
Well, I do want to talk a little bit about some whitetail stuff here too. So
yeah, definitely.
Let's maybe transition over to this. Yesterday, we kind of had a call, all 3 of us, just to kind of, shoot the shit and kind of get to know each other a little better before we had this call. And one thing that I found really interesting about you is, you were a hardcore hunter, but you grew up in a non-hunting family. Now, How was that growing up from when you were little, and how did you, get into hunting? Did you have like a mentor or anything, or, from anybody from outside your family?
Yeah. So when I was younger, so naturally growing up on an acreage, you're always outdoors doing stuff anyway. And we would go out fishing and stuff like that. And, my dad and my grandpa, they were like bird hunters back when Dad was kind of college age. But they completely had not, like they just hadn't done it ever since Dad came out of college. And so it kind of just transitioned into, I mean, he stopped hunting before I was even born,
Okay.
And so anyway, I don't know, just running around in the outdoors and stuff like that. And just spending a lot of time outside just got me really intrigued with nature. And I remember when I was like 11 years old, there's a big bean field out back behind my parents' place. And it was, I mean, I imagine it was during November. It was definitely during the rut. But I just remember seeing a buck chasing a doe around down in that bean field. And I was like, at the time I was thinking it's like some giant, like I didn't even know what big was. But I was like,
right.
oh, that's a big buck. You know, it was probably like a spike or whatever tailing a doe. But I'm like, I was just intrigued, you know. And I'd always seen like Bone Collector, like Jury Outdoors, Realtree, Monster Bucks and stuff at like Walmart for like VHS tapes and stuff. And so I ended up grabbing, it was kind of funny, just randomly at Walmart one day, I grabbed a VHS tape of Monster Bucks. And my mom was kind of like, okay, you know, that's fine. Like, if you want to watch, you know, whatever. She's like, what? You know,
Right.
it's just kind of different, you know, but I'm just like, I was just intrigued, you know. So I started kind of watching videos, reading a few magazines and stuff like that. And I just, like I say, I just got intrigued and I talked to my parents and I'm like, I think I want to try bow hunting. Because one guy that I really, at the time when I was younger and still now, honestly, that I look up to is Michael Waddell. And he was a big bow hunter was the thing. And I'm like, man, shooting a bow would be so cool, you know. And I'm watching these monster buck videos and he's in Kansas and he's, you know, he's just going around having a good time and hunting. And I'm like, well, Mom, Dad, I think I want to get a bow and I think I want to start like turkey hunting and start out turkey hunting with a bow when I'm 12 years old. Good luck, you know.
Right.
Not knowing anything about hunting, period, you know. But so anyway, I talked to my parents. I'm like, well, could we do something for Christmas? Like, you guys buy half the bow, I'll buy the other half of the bow, you know? And they're like, yeah, we could do that, you know? And so anyway, I worked all summer just to build up the money to buy half a bow. And my dad bought the other half for Christmas. And I started shooting when I was 12. And we played around with just little, you know, 9-pound stuff you get at Shopco, flinging little sticks that were supposedly arrows around.
Yep.
You know, that kind of stuff, just with the brothers and running around playing Indian or whatever, you know. But now I had like a bow.
Right.
And it was like, okay, you don't shoot this at your brother.
Exactly.
You know? It was one of those. It was like, oh, okay, now we're doing something. And I just fell so deep into it. I loved shooting my bow. Everything about it, you know, it was just a lot of fun. And so anyway, it was past turkey season by the time I could hit anything with an arrow. So I decided to deer hunt. So spring turkey was over. I'd been shooting all summer and I started to go see if I could notch a deer tag. And I ended up just going out back behind my parents' place. There's kind of like a pond back there, and I knew there was just watching videos and reading stuff up. I just knew there was a couple trails back there. I'm like, well, deer use trails, you know, I ought to sit probably close to one, you know. And dude, I hunted for so at that time in Nebraska, season opened September 15th.
Yep.
And I think I shot that doe on October 9th. And dude,
oh, wow.
I hunted like every day. Like every day. I was just so into it. But dude, I didn't have anywhere else to go. I'd never asked permission on any piece of property or anything. I just had my parents' little 6 acres to hunt on. And so I literally sat in the same spot every day until I killed that doe.
Regardless of wind, because you didn't know wind.
I didn't know nothing, dude.
Yep.
I was just sitting there in a flannel t-shirt, you know. I had no clue.
Those were the days,
whatsoever. Man. Oh yeah. And it was so much fun too, because the day that doe came in, I had these little Tasco binoculars. They were like $9 at Walmart. I bought everything at Walmart, dude. My broadheads, my arrows, my everything, you know, because it was just what was accessible, you know.
Exactly.
And I saw movement out in these cottontails that were about 150 yards away, and I pulled up my little binos. I'm like, oh, there's a deer, and it's like coming this way, you know. And there was 2 little doe fawns that had run past me, and I had no no shot. Didn't know that I was supposed to stop them, like, whatever. And this big old doe come right up behind him, and she actually stopped at 28 yards. I remember I stepped it out afterward. No rangefinder. I didn't have any of that stuff, And I didn't even have a release. I was shooting fingers with my compound, and I just ripped that bow back. And dude, I could hit a block target at like 20.
Yep.
Like I'm talking the target. I'm not talking like a circle on the target. Like I could hit a block at 20. You know what I mean?
You could hit a 2 foot by 2 foot area.
Exactly. And that doe was at 28. And I remember pulling my bow back, and I'm like, she's further than 20. I put it up above her back a little ways, and I just let her go. Dude, I 12 ringed her. Like double lung smoked this thing. And, I truly believe that, like, I'm a pretty religious guy too. Like I'm a Christian and stuff. And I truly believe that, like, God had something to do with that arrow, because he knew that's something he wanted me to be doing in my life, in a path that I needed to be on,
Yeah.
And like, dude, I couldn't hit that, but I smoked her,
Yep.
And it was just a super, super cool experience. And I remember I borrowed my dad at the time. They were like those indestructible Nokia cell phones.
Oh yeah.
And I borrowed my dad's cell phone. And I'm just like freaking out. I don't even know what to do. Like my dad's close by. The house is like literally right there,
Yep.
And I'm just like, I call back to mom. I'm like, oh, I shot a deer. No clue what to do after that, but I shot a deer, and so it was a lot of fun, man. But
so what did your mom and dad say? Because they had to have been thinking like, okay, Joel's going out. He's got this bow. He's gonna go out there. He's gonna bird watch. And,
they had no clue.
And then when you shoot a deer, what the hell is your mom and dad thinking? Like,
oh, dude, they had no. They were just like, what? Like, oh no, I got a deer. I mean, they could literally watch me from the window.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, I got a deer. It's like, what? What are you talking about? It's like, no, I shot one.
Oh my
god. It's like,
gosh.
okay, here we go. Well, let's go try to find it. And so yeah, it's crazy, man. But it just locked it in for me. And like I say, I just not knowing like anything about hunting, from going from not knowing anything to like killing my first deer the first year I tried hunting.
Yeah.
It was just, like I say, it kind of goes back to like, I feel like that was meant to happen for me, because it's gotten me like my going through high school and stuff like that. It honestly, hunting kept me out of so much trouble, because I'd have friends that are oh man, parents aren't home, like, we're throwing a party, come over and stuff. It's like, dude, I gotta be in a deer stand at 5 a.m. Like, I'm not coming over.
Right.
And I was that way. Like I was so upset, and I still am so obsessed with it, that I mean, I didn't want to go out and do that kind of stuff, because I'm like, dude, it's Saturday, like I'm gonna hunt.
Yep.
And so it was a lot of fun. But yeah, so ever since, I've just been locked in on it. And then my good buddy Wes, a couple years later, we all went to the same church, and come to find out, he was a bow hunter. And so I started talking to him. Well, I think he's probably 33. I'll be 26 here next month. So we got a little bit of age gap. He might even be 34. But so at the time, like, we weren't like super close with each other. Like, he was friends with my older brothers. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, but he found out I bow hunted. I found out he bow hunted, and it was like, oh, you bow hunt? And we were like one of the few people in our church that hunted in general. And it was like, oh, you bow hunt? You start talking about it. It's like, oh, you can drive? Like, do you want to go hunt together? And it's like, sure, let's go hunt. And dude, ever since, Wes has been like my closest hunting buddy.
Yep.
Ever since, and it's been so cool, because being able to share that with, hunting, but some hunting buddies come and go, you're hunting with each other, someone does something to piss you off, and then it's like, I'm never hunting with that guy again. You know, It's like,
Exactly.
dude, like Wes and I can just be all the time just having a awesome time. Even if the hunt's going sour and we're like, we could be pissed off at each other, but we're laughing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just that. So when you get a connection with somebody like that, it, especially at an early age, it was just really influential for me. So,
Yeah.
so ever since then, I kind of just grew up hunting with Wes, you know?
So, what age were you when you really started getting really serious about hunting? I mean, trail cams and just like, everything that goes with it.
When my first trail camera was, you remember the big old trail cameras that had like the alligator clip 9-volt batteries?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So that was my first trail camera. I couldn't tell you what brand it was. I'm sure it was maybe like the early Moultrie. But I for sure I wasn't even in high school. I was maybe 14 or 15 when I started getting into all that stuff. I got pretty hardcore into it. Like the first 3 years I even hunted, I killed all 3 years.
Okay.
So, and again, those first 3 years, I didn't know anybody who hunted. I was just that like obsessed with it that I spent that much time.
And you were just
trying to
hunting your
hunt,
mom and
you know?
dad's,
Yep,
6 acres
yep.
behind the house.
Since then, the next year, that the property that is directly adjacent to my neighbors, I ended up talking to them, and my parents ended up talking to them, and it was like, hey, Joel's into hunting. Like, it was just like, I don't know why, but Joel's into hunting, you know? It's like, is there any way, he could hunt back here and stuff? And they're like, yeah, sure, that's fine. You go ahead and hunt back there. And I did go through like hunter education and stuff with my dad.
Yep.
And so he did go out with me quite a few times and sat with me and stuff.
You know what like stands out to me about all that is, you tend to not really learn much unless you do something wrong. And you got it all right the first 3 years you went out there. So I mean, obviously it didn't go right every single time you went to a stand, but to kill successfully 3 years in a row, starting from the first time, your first year out, I mean, that's saying something.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
That's cool.
it was just like, and there was a huge learning curve with it for sure, but you kind of you forced yourself, you fail so much, you just force yourself to learn, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's either you adapt or die, basically. So it's either you grow with it or you just stay stagnant and don't get any better. It's just like any sports that you play or, anything that you do in life, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And you got to fail to succeed,
Yeah, definitely.
I think like it applies across the board into like what you're doing now with Whitetail Fit. It's like, success breeds success. I don't care what you want to apply that logic to, like, but if you feel like crap, you feel lazy, you feel sluggish, tired all the time, get your butt out of bed and like off the couch, go to the gym. Like just start. Just go start doing it, and you'll all of a sudden you're waking up 5 minutes earlier every day. Next thing you know, you're waking up at 5 or 5:30 just to get to the gym before you got to go to work. And then it's like, man, I didn't know I had this much time in my life to go do this. And then it's like, on the hunting side, like you started hunting first, but then you were successful. Like, again, that success just breeds success. So, I mean, I don't care what you apply that to. I think that's true no matter what you're putting your efforts and your thoughts into.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Mentally there's a lot to be said about the mental side of bow hunting and just the mental side of life in general. And like I say, if you're going to the gym, you're keeping yourself healthy, and you're spending a lot of time just trying to better yourself, you're gonna better yourself. And you're mentally, you're gonna feel so much better. And like you said, you're gonna get up out of bed, you're gonna be excited to go hunting. You're not like, oh man, I'm hungover from the night before. It was just like whatever. It's just you're happy. You're energetic, you're positive, you're excited to go start your day, you're excited to go hunt. It just makes a huge difference.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't mean to sound like the pot calling the kettle black here, but like I'm guilty of getting into, you know, those downswings where it's like, man, I just don't have time. I can't do it today. Like I want to, but I just, you know, and then the first day you don't do it, you rely on the excuses you made for yourself. And then it's like, next thing you know, you haven't been to the gym in weeks or months or, you know, whatever the case may be. And even hunting, it's like, you know, we carry the cameras so much, and it's like, man, like I've already got, you know, 60 straight days logged hunting whitetails this year. And like, I finally have a break to go hunt, and like, I don't even want to.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, but at the same time, it's like, you're doing it for a different reason. And then you're out there and it's like, man, I wish I brought my camera.
Yeah. Yep. Oh man. Like ever since I started filming my hunts, I just like, if I go out without my camera and my film gear, I almost just feel like, because that's become a passion in itself, like the filming and the camera work and stuff outside of hunting. I feel like I would be doing that outside of hunting anyway. I don't have time to do that separately, so I merge it with hunting, and it's like, it's cool to create content. I just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when I go out there and I'm hunting and I don't have my camera gear, I'm like, oh, I just feel weird, you know?
You feel
Yeah,
naked.
and that's
Yeah, I know, you do.
And that's how I very first met Aaron. Like the first time we ever met, I was guiding whitetail hunts, and he was working, you know, producing on their show at the time. It's from, you know, still working for the same company he is now, but just for a show that's no longer there. But, you know, that was one of my earliest memories as a guide, where I was like, man, this is a real thing. Like, people actually do this. Like, you know, I watched hunting shows, and, you know, I didn't put any kind of, you know, weight into it, but I was like, you know, somebody's out there holding that camera. Somebody's doing this. Like, and then it was, you know, a friend of mine asked me to shoot engagement pictures, and it was like, man, these are pretty good. It's like, oh, well, thanks. Like, I didn't know, like, I was decent at it, but then I got my own camera, and it was like, you know what, I'm guiding. Like, it's cool to see all these people hunting and like just document their experience, their emotion. And like, you know, next thing you know, it's like, oh, you know, here's a bigger tip. Can I get that video from you? It's like, oh, sure. You know, no problem. Here you go. And it just one thing led to another. And then I ended up going to the production school that Rusted Rooster puts on, which is obviously where Aaron works. But, you know, from there, it was just I don't want to say a death trap. Like, my bank account got smaller, and my desire to continue that line of work, you know, grew exponentially. And now it's like, I mean, it's what brought me to Iowa, you know, and I mean, it's the deer hunter's holy land, but I mean, it's just so cool to me to be able to document those experiences. And like, I mean, Aaron can attest to this. Like, you either tend to go one way or the other. You're a camera guy, you're an editor. It's like, you know, you have to understand both sides of the coin to know how to do either one effectively, you know, in my opinion. But like, you know, you just feel more at home with a camera in your hand, or you're the guy, you know, making the magic at the computer. It's like,
Yeah, behind the scenes.
Yep.
And that's what's kind of like, that's what I've really, really like, I've been fortunate with, and really have grown like a huge passion for. Like with my brand specifically, I self-film almost everything. I mean, pretty much everything I self-film. This next year, I'm going to have my brother Caleb kind of tag along with some of my hunts and kind of get more of a third person angle. He's a pretty good videographer himself. So
Yeah.
I kind of want to just tackle that angle a little bit more. But for the most part, I've always self-filmed, and I kind of do the vlog style of filming, and then just my hunts. I carry in my own camera arm. I strap up the camera arm, and I do everything out of the tree. And when I'm hunting on the ground, I have my full tripod setup that I use, and GoPros and stuff like that. And I've just grown to really like that. I guess that, I don't know what you'd call it, that demographic, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a different type of, it's a different type of film.
it's a niche. Like, and it's so huge right now. And I think like I've been with Midwest Whitetail now for almost a year. March will be a year for me, but you know, to me as a viewer, before I had anything to do with these guys, that was one of the things that appealed to me, is because it was just real life. Like, yes, they're hunting in Iowa, but it's just to have that, this is the way it happened. And, I did it myself. Like, we're not like overproducing this. We're showing you exactly what happened. And it's so big right now. I think like you can punch anybody up on YouTube. And I mean, as long as there's consistency across, their content, I mean, you can pick out the people that are doing it and doing it, effectively, and it's not to say anything against, the larger scale productions. I mean, it's marketing at the end of the day, but, to make something relatable.
Yeah. I've noticed like the large scale productions, dude, I'm all about it, but I can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't have the pocket for it.
Right.
Like,
There's a means for it,
Yeah. Yeah. And by all means, I love those films, man. When I get like, did you guys go to the ATA this last year?
Nope, not this last year.
No.
Trying to fill some tags.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, at the ATA show, the past several years, they've had something called the Badlands Film Festival after the show.
Yep.
And, they put it on in a theater and surround sound and these epic films. And that's dude, hair stands on the back of my neck every time I watch those films.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is amazing to me. Somebody who can put together a story like that and a huge production like that. But at the same time, I can go over to my YouTube channel and watch, my public land deer from 2017. And every single time I watch that video, I could watch it 1,000 times. The hair will stand on the back of my neck when I go full draw.
Yep.
It's just the way it is, it's just, it's so relatable.
Yeah.
No matter how the film is produced, it's so relatable. So that's I just enjoy all of it.
Yeah, and that's why I love YouTube, because it gives guys like yourself and everybody out there, it gives them a platform to show everybody the relatable side of things. And I've been working in the TV world for 7 years now, and I love it. Like, I love the TV hunting and TV producing and everything. But, and this is the whole premise why, I wanted to start this podcast, is because I wanted to, just not that I'm not getting old with the TV thing, but that's what I do for a living. I want to get back to my roots, and I want to get back to like talking to guys like yourself that relate to me and what I do here around my farm here in Michigan, or, going out of state and hunting possibly public land, or, some leases or whatever it is, or knock on permission. That's why I want to design this podcast, to talk to guys like you and, and just kind of, I go to work for my day job, but when I come home and do the podcast here, it's like I get to sit down and get more into my element and what I do, outside of my 9 to 5.
Yep, for sure. And that's like, just with what I'm doing with Whitetail Fit and stuff, it's definitely time consuming, but I wouldn't want to take my time up with anything else.
Right.
It's I mean, obviously you've got, family time, spending time with your friends and having a social life for sure. But everyone I've surrounded myself with now, like I have a ton of friends that are hunters, and I have a ton of friends that aren't. And like, I make time for everybody, but I love to do content. I love to bow hunt. I just love to do that stuff. So like I say, whether it's a brand, whether I'm selling t-shirts, making any kind of money, doing anything with any partners, all that aside, I would be doing the exact same thing for myself, to be able to show my grandpa. One of the coolest things ever was I was able to sit down and show, I think one of the first kills I had on YouTube was just a doe. And I was able to put it on my parents' TV and show my whole family and my grandpa, who, he's 90, I think he's 92 years old maybe. Okay. And to be able to show them that film, like, he's not able to come hunt with me.
Right.
But he can watch it, and man, he just lit up. Like, man, that is so cool to see you bow hunting and see you out there. And it's just, like I say, anything with the industry aside, I'd be doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in the same boat with my daughter. My daughter's 17 months old. If anything was to ever happen to me, this podcast, there is stuff that's going to live out there forever that she can always go back on and say, this is how Dad was. This is what Dad's passion was. And, if she ever has, grows up and gets married and has kids and I'm a grandfather one day, my grandkids can also grow up listening to Grandpa, so it's kind of hard to think that way right now. But like, that was another thought in my mind that I want to leave a lasting print for not just my family and my daughter or possible grandkids, but it's like everybody out there in the hunting community that wants to hear stories and wants to possibly learn from my from my ideas and opinions,
And that's so huge too. And the way that we represent it is huge too, because I probably wouldn't be into bow hunting without some sort of content that I consumed at a young age.
Right.
I mean, I watched the Monster Bucks. I watched Michael Waddell. Like, I got into it because I just was intrigued by that. And the way that they put out content was intriguing to me. It made hunting seem like something I wanted to do.
Yep.
And I think that's huge for new hunters and stuff. And I do think there's kind of two sides, I guess, to hunting, and it's kind of unfortunate because you see a lot of hunters kind of bickering with other hunters, and I hate to see that.
Yep.
But there is kind of a two sides. It's like, no, share all the blood, all the guts, all the gore, share all of that on social media, on YouTube and stuff like that. And then there's we need to really be thinking about what we're sharing. We need to think about how we're representing it, because this is the internet.
Yes.
The internet is viewed by everyone, not just hunters. And whether hunters are seeking that stuff out, obviously they are. That's your demographic is hunters, But there is a general public that has access to seeing those images, seeing those videos,
Right.
seeing how we talk about it, seeing how we represent it. And that's the general public, and how they take that. They might not take that the same as someone who's been bow hunting or hunting in general for 10 years. They won't see it the same way.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we represent that in a positive light. And I hate that we, sometimes you do it. You have to, if I'm going to take a picture of a deer that I just shot, I'll take a corn stalk and I'll clean off the lips where it'd been bleeding because it got a lung shot or whatever. I'll clean off the lips, clean out the nostrils, prop it up presentably, take a nice photo of it, share that, but don't just share it. Share it with a caption that explains why this is so passionate for you.
Yeah.
To me, that will bring more hunters, that will bring more general public into hunting than sharing, a pig that you stabbed in Texas with pit bulls. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
And shared all the gore and the guts.
For sure.
Hunting sometimes isn't the prettiest, and I just think everyone kind of needs to think about that. I guess I don't know. I kind of went on a tangent.
No,
you're
a lot of good
good.
points, man.
There's a line between reality and I'm gonna say reality and respect. That's what I'm gonna call this. There is a very clear and blatant line in the sand between reality and respect. And I mean, it's one thing to show things as they happen, but you need to make sure that you're presenting it in a way that you are, number one, proud of to do, and number two, with the mindset of saying, this is the impression I have on the unknown number of people that are going to see it, interact with it, and react to it. It's not just a picture. It's how you represent yourself in being a hunter and choosing to have this lifestyle, and it's so easily misconstrued, more often than not. I think as hunters, we can talk about it amongst ourselves and understand where we're coming from, but the reality is that there's more people, and probably the majority of people, that if we can get to them, don't understand this. And it's like, you don't want them to see that bloody tongue hanging out, or, like you said, just that goriness. Like, once you have someone's understanding of why you do this and what it means to you, I think at that point you're safe to show them, that first person point of view that,
And I think people need to be at some point, and not necessarily right out. If you share something like that right out the gate that is so blatantly in your face, that sounds bad too. Not in your face, but like there's blood everywhere. Because it happens, dude. You shoot a deer in the lungs and it bleeds out where it bedded. It's laying in a pool of blood. Drag the deer out of the pool of blood and then take the picture.
Yeah.
Don't let it sit in the pool of blood and that kind of stuff. But it's at some point, you also don't want to create a false reality for people where it's like, maybe you do take somebody out who's interested in hunting, who sees those kind of pictures that are well represented. And then when they do shoot a deer and there's this huge blood trail and it leads to a pool of blood that the deer's laying in, you don't want them to be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Like, I didn't know that's what was going to happen, kind of thing.
Right.
You have to kind of transition into that. Like you're saying, we don't need the shock factor, I guess, right out the gate.
Yep.
No.
I agree.
But people do need to know that you put a good shot on an animal, it is quick, it's humane. But sometimes you don't put a good shot on an animal. Sometimes that doesn't happen. And the reality of hunting can be painful for anyone. Dude, there's been stuff that I personally, straight up, I care about animals so much, and particularly whitetail. But if I wound a deer, dude, I lose sleep at night. I don't feel right. Like I don't, sleeping at night, getting through to the next day where you got to track them because you had to let them lay because the shot was a little far back. It was a liver hit. That kills me. I hate that, and that's why I put so much time into just trying to be the best bow hunter that I can with fitness, and the other thing that I'm huge into archery too. Like I shoot my bow all the time. I love going and doing 3D tournaments. I was actually the 3D coordinator for our local archery club for a couple of years, and then I've resigned since. But it was a lot of fun just because I love everything about hunting, bow hunting, shooting your bow, archery, anything, fitness, anything that can make me, in the end, make me a more efficient or more merciful hunter. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, and that's only human. That's being a conservationist and being a human. And it's like, this deer that I was chasing this year, I shot him with a bow and I hit him in the high shoulder and I tracked him for a long time and couldn't find him. And it killed me. It haunted me, Yeah. And, I've said the story on this podcast, a lot, and people are probably getting sick of it. But the thing is like you get so, and I call it intimate with particular deer, or not even particular deer, but just deer in general, because it's a little bit of like competitiveness, but it's drive. You're trying to drive yourself to, to not only, we're on this, we're here as hunters to control these animals in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, for sure.
We were put
they
here,
wouldn't still be here if we didn't try to put some control on it.
We wouldn't have any, resources, any trees, any plants, any, there would be none of it if it was just overpopulated. So we were, put here to control these animals. And, and that's what I love about it so much is like, I like to try to aim after older age class deer, and, the antlers are always a big, for everybody. It's a big thing, and I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I'm not in it for the antlers. Well, yeah, there's a part of me that is in it for the antlers, but I, like you say, venison gains. I love venison. My family
Yeah.
eats 3 deer a year, just at least, so
Yep.
we eat venison all the time. And
Just like this past season, the 2018 season, I passed up several bucks that were kind of that 3.5-year-old, just kind of, they were going to just be studs next year.
yep.
And just kind of gave them a pass. But I shot 3 does last year, and my freezer is full, and every single one of those does meant just as much to me as shooting a mature deer. And I know that sounds weird, but I genuinely mean that. Like, I value venison and deer meat so much that, like, I am so stoked to shoot a doe.
Yeah, I am too.
So
I agree.
it's just, when your freezer's full at the end of the year, that was a good year. Whether there's a rack on your wall or not, that's one thing. But it was a good year if your freezer's full.
Exactly. Yeah, and not too long ago you talked about your 2017 public land buck. I'd like to get into that a little bit and how you went about, tracking him down and the tips and the tactics that you did to get him on the ground. What was that all about?
For sure, yeah. So the year I killed that deer was the first year I had hunted that specific piece of public property, and I had turkey hunted it during the spring. So I was able to do a little bit of recon when I'm turkey hunt. I am always doing recon when I'm turkey hunting for deer. Like, there's not any time I go into the woods for turkey that I'm not also looking at deer sign, looking at old deer trails, looking at old rubs, whatever from the past season, looking for sheds. Love turkey hunting. It's a huge passion as well, but I'm always honing in for whitetail when I'm out there.
I don't blame you.
I think there's a lot of turkey hunters that do that too. Like, I'm not the only one.
There's 2 of them on this podcast with you right now.
That's
so.
right. That's right. Exactly. So I'd turkey hunted this property, but I'd kind of stayed out of the interior of it. I hadn't gotten super deep. Most of the birds I was hunting were, they roost on the field edges. They fly down to the fields. That's kind of how I was hunting it. So anyway, but I got really, really familiar with the property on Onyx Maps, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with it, but anyone who's not familiar with it, I guess it's like a mobile app on your phone that, you pay your subscription or whatever for a year, and you can get just ridiculously detailed outlines of public land.
Yeah.
As well as private. I mean, you can get outlines of private and stuff too. So I did a ton of studying on Onyx Maps, Google Earth, Google Maps, just sitting there at the topographical map.
Yep.
Topographical. Topographical maps, and just really studying the way the terrain lays, where I think the bedding areas are, where I think that they're going out to feed, the transition, the corridors, the ridge lines. I'm just picking this place apart, dropping pins where I think this is a possible stand location or a hang and hunt location. And there was a difference between stand location and hang and hunt locations for me based off wind, based off access, based off time of year. Like, I dissected this property. And so come around, now it was about an hour and a half away from where I live. So it's kind of tough I work 40, 50 hours a week construction. So the only times that I would get out there and have like substantial time to hunt it is weekends. But before, I hate daylight savings time so much. Before daylight savings time, you actually could, I'd talk to the boss, get off an hour early and jet out there, make the drive, and be able to make an evening hunt. I didn't do that very often because there was only a certain wind I wanted to hunt out there. There was a certain just temperature. You want your temperature to be dropping. You want to be on that cold front. You want to have the right wind, and I just really pick and choose, I guess, where I hunted out there and when I hunted out there. So anyway, I hadn't actually been into where I killed that buck. like I hadn't even stepped foot on it, but I felt like I had stepped foot on it by how much I'd done the topical map. And so on the topical map, you can see there's like a little farm outlet between two fields. And this is a fairly big piece of public property. I would say it's probably where the tree was that I actually killed him out of was probably 3/4 mile from the nearest road. They're like 2-mile sections. Just I hadn't seen very many people in there. I actually didn't see any people in there during turkey season. Very few people on trail camera. Like it just was kind of an overlooked piece of public ground. So naturally I looked into it very heavily because I felt like it was overlooked. And so anyway, come roll around late October, a day came around that was the right wind. It was on a cold front, moving in. Talked to my boss. I'm like, can I get off like an hour early? I want to try to make this drive to get out there and do a hanging hunt and try to. I had no clue this deer was in there, but I knew there was good deer in there just based off. There's, when you're talking telephone pole type trees that are shredded.
Oh yeah.
You're
in the right
dealing with
area.
some deer. By no means do I think the deer that I killed did that because he wasn't a telephone pole shredder, but for public land in Nebraska, he was a stud. So I'd literally picked out the tree on the topographical map too. I hadn't actually seen the tree, so I didn't know if the tree stand was going to work in it, but I'm like, if that tree is big enough, I'm sitting in that tree.
Yep.
And so anyway, I threw the stand and my climbing sticks and everything on my pack, and I got all my filming gear with me, and I'm rolling footage on the way in and doing the GoPro, and I did like a time lapse of setting up the tree stand and stuff, and got up in the tree, and about 40 minutes on stand. Funny thing, and it's cool if you watch the full production video on YouTube, you'll see there's a trail camera picture of him. And I've had people ask, like, is that like, so you had pictures of him like before, like trail cam? I'm like, no. That was I walked in, I got to the base of the tree, and I took a trail camera out of my pack. And I'm like, since I'm back here, I want to set a trail camera up so I don't have to come
what's
back.
Going on.
Just to monitor so I don't have to come back in and intrude to another day to go hang a trail camera specifically. So took a camera with me. I went and set the trail camera up off a little tree off the side of the farm outlet, and went back, hung my stand, got in the stand, got all the camera gear set up, was filming some B-roll footage and stuff, sitting there for a little bit. I had a smaller buck come in to my left, and not a shooter or anything, but just fun to watch, and he came in and ended up going behind the tree and never winded me, but just made his way off. And so now I'm thinking like, well, maybe these deer are coming from here and not where I thought they were coming from, so now I'm kind of second guessing my set.
Yep.
And, but right about that time, I turn around and I look, and this buck is standing on the farm outlet right in front of my trail camera. And I'm like, nope, I'm still good. Like, he's coming from where I thought he was. When I set that tree stand, I'd be willing to bet that deer was with 80 to 100 yards of me bedded.
Wow.
Because there's a big bedding area right off about 80 to 100 yards away from where I wanted to get in. And I don't know if you guys follow like the hunting public.
Yep. Kind of.
So they do a lot of bedding area tactics, stuff like that, moving into bedding areas and stuff. I do a lot of that same stuff. Like I like to hone in on bedding. I like to get close to bedding if I can, but I got to do it at the right time and the right wind. I don't want to just go tromping in and just jack up a whole bedding area and push deer out that might not come back.
Yep.
So I had the right wind. I had everything was just all the stars aligned, and I got in there, and like I say, he had to have been bedded 80 or 100 yards, just got up on his feet, and I think he was making his way down that farm outlet to hit. There was a scrape line that went along the cornfield on the opposite side of the farm outlet. And I think he was headed to go hit that scrape line. But he walked right down in front of me, like 18 yards. So we're good.
That's crazy. So that was the first time you ever went in that area then?
Yep. Well, like I say, I'd been on that piece of public. I had not ever been that far in on that piece of public. So yeah, that specific area, that was the first time I'd ever been in there.
So
but like I say, when you study topical maps, like it feels like it's not the first time. You know what I mean?
Right. You
like
feel like
I
you know
almost
the
already
area.
had a vision of what it looked like without ever knowing what it looked like.
Right. Yeah, and the last couple podcasts Justin and I've done, with some guys, on the hang and hunts, and we've done some hang and hunt stuff, but this year I'm gonna get into it a little bit more because, when you really start thinking about it, and that's why I asked you if it was the first time in on that, on that hunt, and it's because all the deer that, the ones that I called the upper echelon deer that I've killed, they were all on the first set in. Basically,
yeah,
and whether they were hang and hunt or not, they were the first time I've ever went into that stand and hunted, and that's when I killed. So I think the odds are pretty good when you sit back and look at it.
A lot of big deer get killed the first time you set in the stand.
Yeah,
I swear it's just, and it has a lot to do with intrusion too. It's if you're going into that stand all the time, not caring about your wind, just going to sit to hunt, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot in a lot of ways. You
are, really. I mean, and that's just another good tactic and, trick in your bag that you could, people can start implementing, and you can get really custom with it. Those hang and hunt guys, they get, some of them like to be light, some of them like to, only have 2 sticks and use 8ers and all that kind of stuff. And it's
and you can just be, you can be so mobile. Like that's one thing that I really like about it. I'll literally, like, if I'm doing during the rut, I do a lot of all day sits. And if I'm doing an all day sit and I sit the morning, whatever, I see a little bit of movement up that way. Like, well, maybe they are moving through that way. Like, I'll just tear the stand down, go hang it over there. As long as the wind is right.
Yep.
I'm going to go move even if it's moving my stand 20, 30 yards, I don't care. If it means I get a shot to that trail, I'm going to move the set. And you can, like, you're not locked in with a huge ladder stand that's like you need 3 buddies to just move it anyway.
Right.
You pop everything out of the stand in 10, 15 minutes, go hang it again. Go set up and go sit in it again. It's so convenient to be that mobile.
Yeah, it really is.
You're speaking my language here, because that's exactly what happened to me this year. My first Iowa deer on public. I played it safe. I hunted the fringe for a couple days. I just kept getting closer and closer. Saw what was going on, and then I went in and I got into what I thought was where all the deer were, and same thing, just 30, 40 minutes into the hunt, rattled one in. And it's weird to be in Iowa and not telling myself I'm going to shoot a 150. Like, I didn't care. I just want to go in there, and I don't care if it's public or private, but like, it was my first Iowa deer, and it was like I went in there and I did the homework. I had a game plan, I learned it. I saw what they were doing, and I read the land, and I don't know, like I don't put a number, on the deer. Like, it's just, I just want to shoot I still want to shoot a mature deer. That was my goal. I could have shot 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, yearlings. Like, I'm not trying to just hunt to feed myself. Like, I want to enjoy this. I want to play the cat and mouse game.
Yep.
And to the T, what you're saying is like exactly what happened to me here, and it was just so rewarding. Like, it was so much fun to have that back and forth. Like, this is ground I've never stepped foot on. I didn't know anything about until I went in there to see it for myself. And it was, when I would do that, I didn't go walk it in the summer. I wasn't out there shed hunting, and I had no idea what was there. Like, I didn't have a single camera. I'm just going to go in there and do what I know how to do and see what's in there and figure it out. For as long as I live, like, it will be one of the most memorable and rewarding hunts that I can ever look back on. Like, I killed a great buck in Saskatchewan last year. I've killed, a typical deer in New York. I grew up in New York. But, like, I don't know what to say about it. Like, it's just so intimate. Like Aaron said, it was like I have no connection to any one of these particular animals. I didn't plant food plots. I didn't raise it. I don't have sheds. That wasn't like, oh, I let him go last year. Like, I told myself, all I want is a mature deer. I don't care if it's a 4-point, a 5-point, or if it scores 160. Like, I'll take a 160, of course, but I'm not going to hold out for that. Like, I just want to go in there, hunt the land, and
there's an experience that you want to have.
Yeah, I just want to know that I won. Like, I beat the other guys and girls that are hunting this place. Anybody who pays taxes in the state of Iowa can be here, has the right to be as much as I do, and I don't care to hold out for a giant. I just want to do it right and shoot a 4-plus-year-old deer on public ground. Like, this is my ground, this is your ground, this is anybody's ground who has an Iowa license plate on their vehicle. Like,
it's
I have no other
it's
investment.
a heck of an experience when you get it done. You know, it can be tough. It can definitely be, I mean, it for sure is definitely tougher than if you're the only one hunting a 1,000-acre piece of private ground. You can kind of play your cards a little bit differently. You know, you're not, like you say, you're not tiptoeing around any other people. You know, you can put out your trail cameras. You have a pretty good inventory of what's on the property and what's staying on the property because you're the only one putting pressure on it. Nobody's moving any deer out, you know, and deer come and go, obviously, but, you know, you don't have 10 other guys pushing those same woodlots and moving deer around all the time. It's kind of, like I say, it's a cat and mouse game, and it's kind of a chess game. There's a lot of elements that might not go, probably won't go your way. So when it does go your way, it's like, oh my gosh, like, I mean, that deer that I killed on public was not the biggest deer I've killed, but it was like the most rewarding for sure. You
Again,
know?
I don't know how to explain it to somebody who has never done it or, you know, doesn't even consider it. Like, if you have private ground in a great state, regardless of the species that, you know, you relate yourself to, like for us it's whitetails, but I mean, it just doesn't matter. Like, if that's your thing and you have private ground and you want to invest your time, your money, your effort, and you want the relationship, the history. And Aaron, like, I know this applies to you to a degree because, you know, you've got some family property, and that's awesome. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just that's where you're, and I don't mean you personally. I just mean people that hunt public.
I will say, anyone out there who's got 1,000-acre tract of private ground that wants to let old Joel Burham from Whitetail Fit hunt, just give me a call. I would love to be on, but that's the thing. It's not accessible to everybody, but public land is. You know what I mean? Like, it's not everybody has that connection, and if you do have that connection, by all means, freaking hunt it and take advantage of it, because not everybody can. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, and again, I'm just as guilty because, you know, I had no other options this year. I was a new resident to Iowa, and I wanted to do the public thing, and I just wanted to challenge myself to do that. Here's my stipulation. I just want to shoot a buck that's 4 years old or older, and that's what I'm going to consider successful.
Yeah.
You know, and it came down to the last 3 days of the late season here. Everybody I work with, my bosses, the owner of the company, everybody was at ATA. And I said, I'm going to stay back. Like, I got one more tag to fill. I got a muzzleloader, and I can use my bow if I want to. Like, I'm going to hunt. I'm staying home.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the owners was like, just go hunt this farm. It's $225. Like, we haven't killed anything. We just bought it. I have no idea what's there. I was like, right up my alley. I'm going. I'm out.
On private.
Yeah, on private. Like, and I'm not going to say no to that. Like, I don't think anybody would, like you're saying.
No.
And, you know, back to what I was trying to get out of my mouth before I started talking faster than my brain works. You know, I just, like, it doesn't matter where you hunt. Just go hunt. Like, just go do what you know how to do. And, like, it's not a matter of if it's
don't
your
trespass.
ground or someone else's. Or
Yeah, don't trespass. Don't go cutting fences down and jumping across. And try to be that. Don't try to be that guy.
yeah, just go do what you know how to do. Like, work within your parameters and like just go out there and take it in.
Speaking of that, jumping fences and cutting, shooting on other people's property, that reminds me, this this last year, I could have shot a buck. I could have shot a real nice buck, and he was right on the other side of where I did not have permission. I mean, I'm talking 25 yards broadside feeding on the other side of the fence, and I'm like, I'm not shooting it. I wouldn't want that from somebody else if I put my time in on a piece of property. Exactly. And I knew that, like, this is my property. I put my time here. I know what deer are in here. I wouldn't want that. So yep. I'm not going to do that to another guy. You know, it's just, and you shouldn't, it's not legal, you know, at least here in Nebraska, you can't shoot across the lines like that.
Yeah. Right. And it's like, you tell yourself in that moment, like, it's nobody else but you is going to know. Like, it's up to you right then to make that decision. And it's like, you know, you can get away with it, but you choose not to. Like, you know the difference. Like, and that's, you know, that's just another one of those lines in the sand. Like I was saying earlier, like you dedicate yourself to uphold, you know, the image of an ethical, responsible hunter. And I don't mean to say image like it's a fake thing, but, you know, it's the reality of the lifestyle you're representing. It's like it's so easy to do it wrong one time and be exposed and you're shunned for life. Like, but yeah. You make those decisions to say, nope, that's over the line. Like, it's other side of the fence. I'm not doing it. Or,
yep.
You know, that's the one deer my uncle said I can't shoot, but man, I really want to. It doesn't matter.
Just kicked off a piece of property.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, those are the things you face, like when it's just you in that moment.
One thing I really like about public land too, you know, you are playing a cat and mouse game with other hunters, right? But at the same time, like, I've met some really freaking awesome people on public ground, and like several of them are really close friends now. And just from hunting, you know, it's funny. They're going back to that deer that I killed in 2017. So I shot that deer. I hit it a little bit far back, and also I'm not going to say the name of the broadhead, but I was not very impressed with it. It went through and it was like a front deploying broadhead.
Okay.
And it went through on the one side, and when it opened up on the inside, it must have hit a rib or something and bent one of the blades clean back to the ferrule. It was supposed to be a 2-inch cut exit.
Yep.
And it was like not even 1-inch exit.
Really?
So it was like pencil hole and a 1-inch exit on the backside. It was not good at all, like barely any blood trail. I thought I initially hit it too far back, but after I found the deer, he was quartering like I thought he was. I hit right where I was aiming at because I thought he was quartering a lot harder.
Yep.
And then watching the film back, I'm like, man, he was kind of like broadside, you know? Well, once I saw where that arrow went in and where it came at, he definitely was quartering. So I still got lungs and everything, and it just didn't do what it was supposed to do. So I backed out that night, and I ended up coming back the next morning to find the deer because I've had barely any blood, and I wasn't going to try to push that deer any further than I had to. So again, one of those sleepless nights, you know, you back up, you don't know how to feel about it. I thought it was a good shot, but man, I'm not seeing any blood, you know? So back out, come back the next morning. I ended up finding him the next morning, but kind of a funny story. So in Nebraska, and I can't remember the exact law, but there's on public ground, there's kind of like a waste law. Like, you're not supposed to leave like the carcass. You have to get the carcass out, on public anyhow. You have to get the carcass out, and you're not really supposed to like quarter it. You're supposed to keep like the sex intact.
Proof of sex, yeah.
Yeah. So I was out there. I wasn't able to get anybody out with me because it was, again, my bosses are awesome. They let me off work that morning to go out and find that deer. And so I was out there solo. I didn't have anybody help me get it out. And I ended up, I run like a Kifaru 22 meg. It's like a full frame backpack.
Yep.
And that's what I run for. It's just easier for all my camera gear and everything, my tree stand and all the stuff that I carry. it's nice to have a full frame pack like that. They're very sturdy, and you can haul a lot of weight on them, more than I should be trying to haul out. But after gutting the deer, I'm like, how am I going to get this thing out of here? Like, I don't want to drag it this far. Like, I'm going to see if this pack can handle it. Like, strapping the entire deer to the pack. So I laid my pack on the ground and I let loose the compression straps, and there's an attachment on it called a grab it. And it's like it's kind of like a big diaper basically that goes over the whole back of the pack and then has two compression straps on it. So I roll the deer over onto my pack, hook all that stuff up, set it up like you got a big old load of meat shelf on it, and put the straps through my arms and stuff, and I just like roll over to the side. And surprisingly, I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna be able to get this. Like, it's not as heavy as I thought it was, And I got to my feet, but once I got to my feet, it was like, oh, you need to go. Like, you've got the weight off the ground. Don't try to do that again. Just go. I left because I filmed it and I had my DSLR on a tripod, and I left my DSLR on. It recorded till the freaking camera died. Like, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm up. I need to go. Like,
just go.
Yeah. So I started walking out, and I was just trying to pick the easiest path to get out with this thing on my back. Unbeknownst to me, I had no clue. I wouldn't have done this like intentionally by any means, but I walked in front of a trail camera. I had no, like, that would be kind of a douchey move to, like, oh yeah, I shot this deer, I'm gonna walk in front of your trail camera. Like, maybe you wanted to shoot this deer, kind of, you know what I mean?
Rubbing it
not
in.
my intent. Yeah, not my intention whatsoever. I just didn't know the camera was there, and it was like on a height, it was on a deer trail. It was the easiest place to walk out, and walked in front of it. Did not know it was there. Did not know it took any pictures. Got the deer back. I carried the deer out about halfway, and I had to take it off and take a break, and I didn't want to try to stand back up with it. I'd blow my back out trying to stand up again. So I ended up dragging the deer the rest of the way, which I almost wish I would have just kept on the pack, because dragging it sucked almost twice as bad. But yeah, so I got the deer all the way back out to the Jeep, got it taken care of, and I'm like, okay, I need to go back in. I need to get my camera. I need to get all the rest of my bow. I left everything there. So I'm like, I need to go back there and get all that stuff, right? So I walk back in on the trail that I walked out on, right? That's when I noticed I walked in front of a trail camera. Like, walking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a trail camera right there. Like, it totally took pictures of me walking out. 100%. I'm just like, but I'm not going to go snooping through it and try to look through the pictures or take any, like, try to delete anything. I'm just like, oh, sorry, dude. I don't know what do you do? You just keep walking,
I'd leave my number and be like, hey, there's a picture of me on this camera. I'd really like to get it.
Right? That probably would have been the smart thing to do.
I look like a real badass, so do me a favor and send me that picture if you get this note.
Yeah, so I walk back, I get all my stuff, I get all my camera gear and stuff, and just head back to the Jeep, go back into town, get everything taken care of. Everything goes by. I produce the film, I put it on YouTube, I'm just whatever. I finish out the hunting season. Winter goes by, spring turkey rolls around, right? So I go back out to that property to turkey hunt, and again, I film all my turkey hunting and stuff too. And I was coming out of the woods, and there's two other guys coming out of the woods too. So, like, two other hunters on this public ground coming out of the woods. We kind of meet at the road, and we're kind of like, because that's where our trucks are parked, and I see them walking out. I'm like, I'm just going to go over. So I always try to say hi to whoever I can, as long as I'm not, like, if I'm not interrupting their hunt, like, I always try to just be friendly to everybody I see on public and just introduce them, like, introduce myself and, like, just talk with them. And, like, I want them to know I'm in there. I want them to know where I'm at, that kind of thing. And so I walk up to these two guys, and I'm talking to them. And super nice guys, like, right out the bat, they're super nice. We're talking turkey hunting and stuff. And he sees that I've got, like, a bunch of camera gear. Like, I've got my tripod in the side pouch of my pack with my DSLR camera hanging off the tripod. I've got, my HD camera strapped to the front. strap on my backpack and I got a GoPro on my bow and stuff. And he's like, huh. He kind of, but he was, while we were talking, he was kind of like looking at me, you know? And I'm like,
Like, who are you?
yeah, exactly. He was like talking about it and stuff. And then all of a sudden he just stops and he's like, did you kill a pretty good deer on this piece of ground last year? I was like, yeah. And he's like, I have a picture of you carrying that thing out on your back. I was like, I just exploded. I'm like, no way. I'm like, that was your camera? He's like, yeah. He's like, I got a picture of you. And he was just bawling laughing. He's like, I thought it was the coolest thing. I told him, I'm like, I am so sorry. I did not mean to walk in front of that camera, like to rub it in your face or anything. I flat didn't know your camera was there, you know? And I don't want to be that guy, you know? And he's like, no. He's like, I thought it was sweet. Like, it was like, holy crap, this guy's got a deer, you know? And so anyway, swap numbers, ended up talking to him and stuff. He texted me he had that deer on trail camera during the summer. He sent me all the pictures of the deer that he had trail camera pictures of, sent me the picture of me carrying it out. It was like the coolest.
That's awesome.
Like, it was like, dude, this is so cool. Like, I love public ground, you know? And I talk to that guy on and off, you know, and I need to get together with him, do a turkey hunt or something this spring out there and just, you know, shoot the bull. But he killed he texted me this last year while I was out during the rut, and he killed an absolute stud on public this last year here in Nebraska. I don't know what it went, but I would guess 160 plus at least. The guy's just a killer. He knows his way around public. So, but you meet guys like that, you know, you meet a lot of guys who are grinding on public. Like, they're good hunters. They know what they're doing. You can take a lot away from people like that, you know, and if there's anything that you have that can help benefit them too. I'm an open book. That's the thing. Like, I love hunting and I'm so passionate about hunting. I'm an open book. I'm not going to tell you exactly where I hunt on that piece of public. But like, if you need help, if you need tips or tricks, and maybe I've failed at doing this in the past, and this might help you because I failed at it. Like, I'm an open book. Like, I just love talking hunting with people. So I don't know. It's just a lot of fun meeting new people and stuff on public.
No, I had like another similar experience. Like, on the piece of ground that I killed my buck on this year, I saw a trail camera like right on the 2-track road, like the main access leading right into this thing. And it was November 9th I killed. So all the guys I work with, like, it's prime rut right now. Like, these guys are all spread out all over Iowa, and I'm out there by myself. And I text everybody, and it's like, I mean, I just killed. I could really use a hand. Like, I'm about 500 yards off the road. It's a quick, easy drag, but like, I got to film a recovery yet. And it's like, they're all, I'm down in Decatur. I'm in Decatur City. I'm back east. You know, it's like, oh man, I'm screwed.
You're solo.
Yeah. And it was like, I know one other person that lives here, and he happens to actually he lives 15 miles from where I was at. And similar situation. I met this guy on a hunt I was on in Missouri. He had gotten contracted as a freelance guy to film for Headhunters for Randy and Nate. And, you know, we come to find out that now we both live in Iowa. You know, like he saw I was moving, and like we caught up when I moved here. And the intern that lives with me right now, like, actually bought an A7 II off of him. And it was like, oh, how you doing? Like, good catch up. Like, he's like, oh, I live here. I live right there. Like, oh my gosh, you know, like, we're neighbors. And I was like, I'm going to call Kyle. And he comes to help me. He's like, yeah, I know exactly where you are. I have 3 cameras out there. And I'm like, is one of them a muddy camera, like right at the parking area? He's like, yeah, I just monitor who goes in. And I was like, man, you probably got a cool picture of me walking in, like, loaded down with all my camera gear, my bow. Like, he's like, yeah, I know right where you are. He's like, I guarantee I got pictures of whatever buck you shot too. And of course he did. And it was just,
it's
like,
no secret to anyone who's hunting that stuff. No. Like I say, most of these guys are pretty hardcore. They know exactly what's going on.
Yeah. So it's just cool. Like how like you said, like, you're not trying to outcompete anybody. Like, you're taking advantage of the same resource and you're playing the same game, but like, it's just cool to see everyone's different, tactics and strategies as far as what they think is going to like give them the edge, or put them up. But when you see them, like, you just want to say, hey, do you have any luck? Like,
yeah,
You
absolutely.
just want to hang out.
There's some people I have ran into people before that were, less than pleasant. Those are the kind of people, it's like, cool, I didn't want to talk to you anyway. Like, if that's your attitude and that's the kind of person you are, like, I'm not going to get along with you, So there are those people there, and maybe you do something that you walk in front of a guy while you're hunting, you didn't know he was there, it pisses him off. That's one thing. Go talk it out, be a nice person, apologize for screwing up his hunt, just be a good person. I don't know, like that. My whole thing is just like, and what I try to represent with my brand and stuff too is just be positive, be a good person. Like, life is good, dude. There's no, I mean, I get it. People's got struggles. Everybody has struggles. I have struggles, but like, we're here, we're breathing,
Right.
We can hunt still,
Exactly.
Life's good,
Yep.
and that's just like, I just try to resonate that with people and just try to be the nicest person that you can, I guess. Like, everybody has bad days for sure, but
Yeah.
if you can choose to be nice, like, just choose to be nice,
I agree, man. Well, boys, I think we should wrap this one up. What do you guys think?
Has it been a minute? How long's it been?
Hour 45.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Dude, podcasts can just and like I say, I just like talking about hunting so much.
Yeah.
Podcasts can just end up they just go.
No,
I didn't
man,
even
there was a
realize
lot of
it,
good stuff on this. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I do too.
If you guys ever want to just I know we didn't dive too much into technical side of whitetail, but if you ever want to talk about that stuff, just hit me up again. We'll talk.
For sure.
Oh, we're gonna talk. Like, I'm putting in again this year for elk, mule deer, and I've got this crazy desire to hunt a bison. So I'm trying to.
Crazy.
But
that is crazy.
Yeah, I know. It I can't seem to find one in my price range, but
Yeah.
that's like I said, it's crazy, but it's there.
That's with a lot of hunts, and that's what I like. Again, like, going back to public is just so, the elk hunt that I went on with my buddy Wes, he ended up, we were out there for 10 days, and we ended up, he killed like a 285 inch 6x6 out of Wyoming public land. And honestly, like, me not having a tag in my pocket was like so fun because I got to be the caller.
Yep.
And I got to interact a lot with the bulls, and so I ended up calling that bull in. We slipped in real close. I mean, real close to his bedding. He had like 6 cows with him. Let off just a little locate bugle, and he ended up challenging me like right back, and came running into 40 yards. Wes smoked him. Just awesome hunt. All public land. I think he paid, I can't remember what, I think it's like said and done's like $700 for a tag and license or whatever. And we didn't have to pay a guide. We didn't have to pay lodging fees. We didn't have to pay meals. We didn't have to pay, more or less, for $700. We had a hunt of a lifetime on public, and everybody can do that.
Yep.
Worth every penny.
Yep. And average old Joe's, I ain't got the pockets for it. I just don't, it's, I hope one day I do. And I'm not, again, kind of like the public versus private thing. I will never knock or get down on anybody for wanting to do a guided hunt. If you've got the money for it, I wish I had the money for it. Go for it.
Right.
I've done it.
It's just not feasible for some people,
Yeah.
I mean, I was that guy. When I was guiding, I was working for an outfitter. And I mean, it afforded me a lot of opportunity that got me to where I am right now. On a production standpoint, I got certified as a biologist because of my work, in a breeding facility with whitetails. It's like whitetail deer have given me every opportunity I've had in my life, and I got it through different ways, like guiding on a high fence place. I mean, I'll admit it.
Yeah.
working high fence stuff, working breeding facilities, bottle raising fawns, and now into production. I mean, there's people that hired me just because they know I'm a hunter and I understand when I'm a cameraman. Like, I'm not just a techie guy with the camera that can take a good picture. Like, I hunt, I understand. Like, I know what you're doing, and I know the process. And it was like, again, I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not gonna say I wish I hadn't done it that way. Like, it's cause and effect, and it's from one stone to the next. And it's got me where I am now, and I'm about to be 35 years old, and I mean, I'm gonna keep doing it. I mean, there's nothing that's gonna stop me from doing it. So
Yep. And that's where I hope that later on in life, with just keeping up with fitness and stuff, like just putting that longevity in front of me, as far as like, dude, when I'm 70, I sure hope that I can still do a high country mule deer hunt. Like, that is my goal. Like, I want to be doing this as long as physically possible. So if that means taking care of myself now, I want to take care of myself now.
Right. Yep. Makes sense, man. And it's always good to take care of yourself. And me, I don't work out right now, and I need to be working out right now. And there's no excuses for it.
And you know what though? Some people are different. I know there's a lot of people that are just they're just a different breed, dude. Like, never go to the gym, never take care of themselves, and they could out hike me every day of the week.
Yep.
And I feel like I'm in good shape. You know what I mean? Like, there's guys out there that are like that, and they're just studs.
Exactly. Alphas.
I don't know how else to put it other than I am not that person, and I wish I could be.
Yeah. Well, Joel, where can you direct people to watch your stuff and even go on and, if they're interested in some Whitetail Fit swag and all that stuff, where can you direct them to go to get all that stuff?
For sure. So I'm on all of the social medias. So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm even on Udo. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Udo app.
No. Nope.
So Udo is like it's kind of like Instagram, but it's it's like hunting specific. It's outdoor driven.
Okay.
You should check it out. It's kind of a cool app. But anyway, so I'm on all the social media platforms. I'm on YouTube. To find me on the social media platforms, you pretty much just type in Whitetail Fit on any of them. But the Instagram is my main platform, and that's at Whitetail_fit. Just FIT, like fitness.
Yeah. Yep.
And then same thing with YouTube. Just type in Whitetail Fit, I'll pop up. So the website for picking up some swagger is just www.whitetailfit.com. Everything's just Whitetail Fit. So if you type that in, you're gonna find it.
Awesome, man. Well, I Justin and I both really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to do this. And like you said, we didn't get into a lot of technical stuff, but it was a great conversation. We'll have you on again here, and we'll get down to the technical nitty gritty. So
nitty gritty, man. I love it. Yeah, and like I say, you got to kick me off of these things because I'll just keep talking.
No, you're good, man. It was good conversation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's something we haven't done. Like, a lot of the stuff we've been involved is, like, I won't say involved, but a lot of our episodes so far have been kind of techie, like how-to kind of stuff. So, anybody listening, give us some feedback. And do you like this more versus the other stuff? Or, I mean, I think this was just like hunting camp talk. Like, this was awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what it's about, man. I love it.
Well, cool, buddy. Thanks for coming on, and we're going to cut you loose here. And again, appreciate you coming on and doing this.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Appreciate you guys. Hope y'all have a good night.
And there you have it, man. Now, that was a change of pace right there, because we haven't really had a discussion like that yet on the podcast. And honestly, I really liked it. I hope everybody else listening to it liked it, because, I mean, I think it flowed well, and I think there's a lot of good information. A little long, but I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I did too. And it's, I just, like I said at the end there, I just feel like it was just a couple guys talking about hunting and, just BSing in camp. But it was, we realize we're all doing the same thing, and we have the same goal, the same purpose, and ultimately the same motivation, like public versus private, that's a constant debate, and it's nothing there's no win or lose, no matter what side you're on, and it's not even a side. We're all just hunting. So it's
exactly. We're all trying to get to the same common goal.
Yeah, and I hope it didn't come across as an argument by any means. Like, I don't feel like it did. It was just, we're just talking, and it was just cool to have a normal conversation. Like, we've never met Joel face to face. It was just a cold call. Like, we reached out to him, was like, hey, would you want to do this? Like, this is what we're about. This is what we're trying to do. And he was like, absolutely. And like, we talked to him yesterday on the phone just to feel each other out and kind of lay some groundwork about the conversation. And I just knew then it was going to be so easy to talk to this guy, and we're on the same page. So it's just cool to, and again, like I said at the end, is if you guys feel like this was more engaging, more enjoyable for you, and give us some feedback. It's like Aaron said, it's change of pace for us compared to what we've been doing. So. We're going to try to carry this into the coffee call, apply some of these questions that might arise from this, and address those in those more direct answers as far as how these things are interpreted. But, on a bigger picture scale, like, how do you feel this went versus the stuff we've talked about in the past, with techniques and tactic?
Yeah. And all you got to do is go on to Instagram. If you follow us on Instagram, go to the Fall Podcast and just do a direct message there, or even on the Facebook page. Go to the Fall Podcast there.
Yep.
And, just put a direct message on there. Nobody else sees it but Justin and I. And, we want that feedback. We want to know what you guys are thinking. And the good thing is our downloads are still, like, they're on the spiral up. So it's great. We're trending up, and it's huge. The support is great. I love it. Justin loves it. And, I say it every week. Thank you to everybody for the support, because it keeps driving us every week. We take time out of our day. I mean, right now it's midnight right now on a Friday, and we're still recording this. But you know what? That's, we're passionate about this and about what we're doing, and I love it, and I know you do, and I just can't wait to keep this thing rolling, man. Let's keep this train going.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody has any thoughts on somebody who might be a good guest, like, you kind of see where we're going with this stuff by now, both just from a conversational standpoint, but also from a tech standpoint, or a gear kind of stuff. Like, we are totally open to anything that anyone's willing to want to talk about. So just, again, those messages, those comments, anything that you can throw out there to say, hey, talk to this person, or hey, that was great, or I like this better. Like, we want to keep this tailored to those of you that listen to it, that can take away from it. So just stay engaged and stay interacting with us, and we're going to keep doing what we can to make sure we're delivering.
For sure, man. Let's wrap this thing up and call it an evening. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and hopefully you enjoyed it.
Natural.